I think last week, and tonight you're Zoomers. So we're gonna Zoom with Jesus tonight. That was terrible. When we left off last week, I want to recap a little bit because it folds into some of the major points that I want us to see in the end of this third chapter. And that was, if we go to, say, verse 26, they came to John and they said unto him, Rabbi, he that was with thee beyond the Jordan, to whom thou bearest witness, behold, the same baptizeth, and all men come to him. So John's disciples, John the Baptist's disciples, come to him. They're saying, Jesus, the guy you told us about, he's getting all the action. Everybody's coming to him. And John answers in verse 27, it says, a man can receive nothing except it be given to him from heaven. Now, what he's setting up here is a picture of his humility and his preference for Jesus. Because he goes on to explain, he says, you yourselves bear me witness that I said I'm not the Christ, but I'm sent before him. I precede him. I'm the one announcing his coming. I told you I'm not that guy. There's somebody bigger than me. And he goes on and he uses this beautiful example of the bridegroom and the bride. In verse 29, he that hath the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom, which standeth and heareth him, rejoiceth greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. What was happening there in the bridegroom example, in the Hebrew, traditional Hebrew wedding of those days, you had a bridegroom and you had the groom. The groom is the best groom. You had the bridegroom, the bride, and then the groom. The best man. Boy, it's too many people in this wedding. You've got the groom and the bride and the best man. So he's talking about those two men. They're very close. So the best man is really glad that his friend's getting married. And this, when he that has the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom, the best man, which standeth and heareth him, he stands by the bridal chamber, the tent, as it were, in those days. He stands by and he's listening because the marriage is about to be consummated. And he hears the groom rejoicing at his delight at fulfilling his bride. And so he's excited. He rejoices greatly. This is a wonderful, wonderful thing that has happened. He's so glad for the groom, for his friend, to have this experience with his beautiful bride. So there's great rejoicing about that. And it's the best man who's nearby listening. And then he proclaims to the wedding party that this has happened as great rejoicing because of the bridegroom's voice. And so John the baptizer says, this, my joy is fulfilled. His joy is fulfilled because Jesus is attracting all. Jesus is increasing. This is exactly why he came. And that's the next verse in verse 30. He must increase, but I must decrease. My days are numbered in this thing. And he would know the scriptures. You think about Isaiah 9:7, referring to Jesus, unto us a child is born, he says, of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end. No end to the increase. No end to the increase of his government over us and his peace, his reigning in peace over us. Never ends, continues to expand. Thus, we understand more poignantly, he must increase, but I must decrease. Now, the next verse, 31, he that cometh from above is above all, but he that is of the earth is earthly and speaketh of the earth. Well, he that cometh from above is obviously Jesus, but he that is of the earth speaks of the earth. Well, that could be any human being, because anybody but Jesus is from guess where? The earth. And what do the earth people talk about? Earth stuff. So we see a contrast between Christ and people, but there also you can see that it's referring to John the Baptist. Now, we don't know at this point whether it's the Baptist speaking or the apostle John speaking here. It doesn't really matter. I've read people who read it either way. You know, some people are of the opinion that it's John the Baptist continuing to speak. He must increase, I must decrease. He that comes from above is above all, but he that is the earth is earthly. And I've heard others who think that now that's where the apostle John comes in. He that is from above is above, but he that is of the earth is earthly, and speaketh of the earth, referring to John the Baptist there. John the Baptist is a human being. He's a mortal human being. We can see why Christ must increase and the Baptist must decrease. There is a big difference between the Son and the Baptist, the one from heaven and the other from earth. One is a mortal, regular old human being, and the other one is God incarnate. So it's interesting if you look at how that verse 31, it's a sandwich of kind of saying the same thing, it looks like, because it starts out, he that comes from above is above all, and he that is of the earth is earthly, speaks of the earth. He that cometh from heaven is above all. So I was looking at those words and I thought, that's a repetition. It sounds like it's just sandwiching the same thing, like he's repeating it for emphasis. Well, he is repeating it for emphasis, but he's putting a little spin on by the use of the language. The word from above in that use, it has the idea of beginning. In their mindset, the higher something is, the closer it is to the origin, the closer it is to the beginning of things. Not just height, not just a distance, but it's closer to God, closer to the beginning. So you have he that comes from above, from the beginning, is above all, is at the beginning. And then the he that cometh from the heaven is above all. Well, using the word heaven, that can mean where the birds fly in the heavens, it can mean where the stars exist in the heavens, and it can mean where God lives in the heavens, the place where he is. And so this, in its context, would be referring to the highest heaven there. So that's just a little interesting use of the words, but how significant is it? We're hearing of a man that came from the beginning, from the heavenly realm of God, who doesn't speak of earthly things. Men speak of earthly things. John the Baptist was speaking of earthly things to us earthlings about the advent of this man coming from God. And verse 32, and what he hath seen and heard, this is referring to Jesus because it's capital H here in my translation, the Authorized Version, and what he hath seen and heard, that he testifieth. John the Baptist and other human beings can only talk about what they have seen and heard through their own natural senses, or in the case of the prophets, some divine inspiration occurred. But they don't live there. They live here in this world, and they speak of the things that they see and they perceive unless there's a divine inspiration. So he says that Jesus, where is it? He hath seen and heard, and that's what he testifies. That's what he talks about. That's what he's telling us about. And he's saying here that, and no man receives his testimony. Well, a lot of people did. He's generalizing here, and nobody listens to him. Well, we're listening to him. We listen to him. John listened to him. Jesus his ministry was beginning here. People were listening to him, but it was in its nascent ministry then. And so, but people were also not, they were rejecting his gospel. So 33 says, he that hath received his testimony hath set his seal that God is true. Set his seal is a way of saying that I wholeheartedly agree with it. I'll sign off on that the words that Christ said are true. Whoever receives it. He that receives his testimony has set his seal. Like his signet ring would be his seal. His signet ring means I'm good for it. Whatever the bill is, you put your signet ring on it, and it's a binding contract. For he whom God hath sent speaks the words of God. Like earlier, it said, man speaks the words of man, of the things that he sees. Jesus is speaking what he saw and what he knows and of where he comes from. For he whom God hath sent speaketh the words of God. For the Spirit is not given by measure unto him. It was given by measure unto the prophets. It was given periodically for a period of time, temporarily, come and go. Even with Moses, it would manifest, but then he wouldn't be there. It'd manifest in various miracles. But with Jesus, it was not measured out to him. It was filled with the Spirit without measure. And verse 35, the Father loveth the Son, and hath given all things unto his hand. He that believeth on the Son hath everlasting life. And he that believeth not, that word believeth there is better understood as obeyeth not, or willfully disobeys. It's one thing to doubt and to learn and to grow in your faith, because growth is like a baby. You stumble and then you get up, but you're attempting to go that direction. All of us have had that. We're still growing in grace, and we're still learning and growing in faith. But he that believeth not, he that is willfully disobedient, not trying, does not want to go that way, shall not see life, eternal life, shall not have the life of God, but rather the wrath of God abides on him. So here we concluded chapter 3, where you've got the humble John the Baptist and his joy for the bridegroom being here, and his disciples a little bit confused because now they're seeing Jesus getting all of the action. They were concerned for him, but this straightens out his position on this. And this, I think this might be the last we hear from him. But we'll begin chapter 4. When therefore the Lord knew how the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, though actually Jesus himself baptized not, but his disciples did, he leaves Judea and departs again into Galilee. But he's got to go through Samaria. The Samaritans and the Jews were hostile to one another. Let's just leave it there. There's more of a story to it. It had to do with the Judea and the north of the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes that are in the south. And I don't know enough about it to go into it, and it's not important. The important thing is that there was hostility between the Jews and the Samarians. So verse 5, then he cometh into the city, a city of Samaria called Sychar, near to the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph, where the well was. Jesus, being wearied with his traveling, he sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. So that's like high noon. So it's hot. And there comes a woman of Samaria to draw water at noon, the hottest time to do it. Nobody else was there. It would draw the water at dawn. It's cool. You got to travel with those big water pots because you come and you get your water for the day. They don't have running water. So Jesus is there sitting, and this woman comes at noon. So already there's a Let's see. Then comes a woman of Samaria to draw water, and Jesus said unto her, "Can I have a drink? Give me a drink." You know, I was thinking about how this reads, and especially in these Gospels, there's so many things to talk and write about Jesus. Like we said earlier, there's how many, 7 or 8 or 10 miracles that John uses as signs. He was picking from zillions of stuff that Jesus did. He deliberately chose different stories of different things to paint this picture of the divinity of who Christ is. So this story, when Jesus said unto her, "Give me to drink." Well, first of all, John probably wasn't even there. And it's 40 years, this happened probably 30, 40 years earlier. And the point is that he asks of her for some water. He sees she's there to draw water and asks her if he can have a drink. And he asked her because his disciples weren't there. In verse 8, they went into town to buy some meat, to buy some more food. So 9, then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, unto Jesus, "Well, how is it that thou, being a Jew, ask me for water? Well, and first of all, I'm a woman and I'm a Samaritan. I'm a Samaritan. Why are you asking me?" She's curious now. And me being a woman of Samaria, for the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Verse 10, Jesus answered and said unto her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for water, you would have asked me, and he would have given thee living water." Well, first of all, if you knew the gift of God, that's when I read it, I just see that's winking at the grace of God right there. It's a glimpse that what God has for you is free. It costs you nothing. It costs him everything. He's giving you the most precious thing. If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for the water. He that comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who seek him. He rewards you with a gift. What his reward is, a gift. It is not merit. It's not based upon your merit or your good works or your good looks or your money or anything that you can do. It's a gift. And he says, and if you knew who it is, who you're talking to, I'm God in the flesh right here. If you knew that, you would be asking me for a drink. And God would have given you living water. As we talked about before, and as I've said on Sundays, living water is the opposite of stagnant water. Flowing water in a stream, water that's a body of water that's fed by springs. Flowing water is living water in their language. Before I understood what that meant is moving water versus stagnant water, I thought, well, living water is special water because it's God's water. It's Jesus' water that's inside you. Well, that's true. But think of what he's saying and what she's hearing. Living water would mean moving water, which is more desirable for cleansing. The woman says to him, "Sir, you don't have anything to draw with, to pull the water out of the well with. You don't have anything to draw the water up with."
I always like this part of the Bible.
Where am I? You have nothing to draw, and the well is very deep. Well, where is that living water? How are you going to get this living water that you're talking about? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well, dug the well in the first place? And he drank here himself, him and his children and his cattle. And Jesus answered, "Whosoever drinks of this water in the well will be thirsty again." I'll have another drink because I got thirsty again. But whosoever drinks of the water that I shall give, not that I might give you, if you're really nice, I shall give.
That's a good point.
Shall never thirst. But the water that I give him shall be in him a well of water springing up unto everlasting life.
That's what I have.
It's not just having a well in the backyard that's your own well. It's in you, and it's filled with everlasting life that comes out of you forever. The woman says unto him, "Well, sir, give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw." So let's have it. I'd like some of this water you're talking about. I'm sold. Whatever you're selling, I'm buying it. Let's go. So Jesus says unto her, "Well, go get your husband and then come back here." Well, that doesn't sound, I mean, why not? Hey, I'll bless you both. Go get your husband. It'll be a family affair. I'll give you both living water. The woman answered and says, "Well, I have no husband." And Jesus says unto her, "Well, thou hast well said, I have no husband. For you've had 5 husbands, and the guy you're sleeping with now is not your husband. In that you said the truth." The woman says unto him, "Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet." In other words, you are reading my mail. Our fathers, she's saying to this, our fathers worshipped in this mountain, which they worshipped idols in that mountain, by the way. And you say that it's in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. So she's trying to deflect, a little bit onto, well, where do we do our religious oblations? Where do we have to do the thing that we need to do? And he said unto her, "Woman, believe me," this is verse 21, "the hour is coming when you shall neither worship in this mountain, nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you know not what. We know what we worship at our mountain, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour comes, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for the Father seeks such to worship him." God's a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. I'm going to put a stop right here, because true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The idea of worshiping God in spirit is the opposite of worshiping God in some demonstrable, accountable manner with some obligation or adherence to a code of conduct or something where you can be seen and it's observable. Worshiping God in the spirit is worshiping him in another realm, in another kingdom that's not visible in this world. A lot of people get off on worshiping God in this world. They like to be seen of men. They're proud of their church attendance. They're proud of their denomination or whatever it is. Christ is saying, this realm of the spirit where I come from, my spirit will fill you. You will worship me in that way, in the spirit. And that will transform you from the inside out by the living water that flows through you. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And this is one of the most difficult things for us human beings, because we're so accustomed to dealing with things through our senses, through things that we can taste, touch, feel, observe, see, and experience, tangibly in this world. Well, the Spirit of God it's first of all, it's invisible. It's not tangible, but it is the highest. It is a realm that is this world. He's present in us and with us all the time. We live and move and have our being in him, with him, but it's in a spiritual sense. You can't see him, you can't touch him, you don't feel him, but you know he's there because of the Spirit of truth in us, and the Spirit of truth that wrote these words, and the Spirit of God makes himself real. He confirms his reality to us. So we're learning how to worship him in spirit and truth. Amen. And we're growing in grace.
Yes.
The more that we present ourselves to him with an open heart and open mind, and learn his words, meditate on his words, speak his words, and walk in love, the understanding of worshiping him in spirit and truth becomes more and more real to us. And so with that, I've gone over, and if anybody has submitted any questions, Lilia, I'll turn it over to you to moderate that part of the honey on the slate.
Thank you. And before I do that, I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate this study tonight. And it is just wonderful how you can see God here on earth as a human, and the way he has so much patience and humbleness, because he's coming to this woman with a solution, and all he gets back from her is cons and doubt, but he continues to persist. And that's the same Jesus today. And it's wonderful to see how he's always been this way. Now, we said in the beginning of the study, some of you weren't here, but I will say it again. We're going to be adding 15 optional to you minutes after the study for questions and answers. Obviously, if you need to leave, that's totally fine. But last week we had a little bit of problem understanding or hearing you because of the lag and the several types of microphones. So we thought it would be a great idea if you could submit your questions via chat. And the chat option is that little comment box in your app. And if you can't find it, raise your hand and I will.
I can't.
You can't find
I see. I'm on a laptop, and I see the taskbar with all the icons at the bottom. And if I enlarge now I see it.
You see it?
Participate. Oh, it went away. It went away.
You have to drag your mouse down towards the bottom of the screen, and it should pop up at the bottom.
Yay! It did. Hey, you're fantastic.
So in that little chat, we will all be able to see if there are any. Okay, so I have ta-da!
Ta-da! I see it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you can message someone privately, or you can message everybody. And the way you do that is when you are in the chat, you'll see a blue word highlighted, and there's a little arrow pointing down. If you click on it, you'll have either everyone or just a certain person in the meeting. Okay, so that's an option. So if you want to direct them to me, that's fine. If you want to type them out for everybody, that's fine as well. But this way, we will make sure we don't miss.
Oh, that's so cool.
Questions. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, please type them in now, and I will read them. Or they can be comments as well. They don't have to be questions. And we will be ending this in about 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes.
Okay,
Um,
type in your question.
Take your time, type in your questions or comments.
I don't have one.
It's good to see Denise here. Hello. We have several people here. Mom was here, but she just
Yeah, she bailed.
turned off her camera. Mom. She's sitting outside.
Nice.
It's not hot for a Mexican out there, you know?
Well, if there are no questions, what does that say about the teacher? I don't know if that's a good thing or.
Well, sure, it's a good thing.
Maybe there's some shyness with using the chat option.
Well, I just discovered it. If you move, if people can't see it, move your mouse down to the bottom of the Zoom window and you get a number of options, one of which is chat, and then you touch that and you see where you can enter chat. So that's fantastic.
Well, in the meantime, I will bring this up again, like we did in the beginning of the session. Next week, we're going to switch from Thursdays to Wednesdays. I hope that's not a conflict with anybody, but it's just going to work out better for my schedule. I'm being a little selfish.
No, I think it's fine. It's fine with me, but it's going to be from Wednesdays moving forward, not just this one. It's going to be Wednesdays moving forward.
Next week, and I'll send an email, but we're going to use the exact same ID and password. And it's going to be the exact same time.
Yeah, cool.
Also, if you want to invite anybody, you can totally share the Zoom
Password and stuff.
Feel free to do that. They're your friends, so we trust you to invite non-stalkers.
Well, that was one of our hopes with the Bible study. It gives us an opportunity for more fellowship and more exposure to the Word of God, and that helps to grow our faith and everything, but also to share our faith, because I know some people have maybe shared one of my messages, an hour message with somebody. And I've had excited friends who are, about their church, and they want me to listen to their pastor's hour-long message. And it's like, I don't really have the time to do that, to listen to another, somebody else's hour-long message. I appreciate their enthusiasm for their church and their pastor, but at the same time, to send somebody, if you like one of my messages and you send it to one of your friends, don't expect they're going to watch it or listen to it. I have it. Some of my friends do, but they've been following me, But I wanted a smaller something you could sample and share with people.
Absolutely.
So I think a half-hour Bible study, you can share the video with them, or you can invite them. And if they like us and they want to hang around, that's fantastic. And they don't have to be around here or not. And if they like it and they want to come to our church, wouldn't that be wonderful?
And obviously, cameras off is always an option.
Yeah. Yeah.
So definitely keep that in mind. And last week, I wanted to introduce my mother to you. I wanted you to say hi, Mom.
Hi.
Hey, we missed you. I can't wait to see you again.
Oh, thank you, Pastor. Me too.
I love my mom, and I'm so lucky to have her here. She's actually pastored a church along with my stepdad for many, many years. So she is a wonderful spiritual influence in our whole family of prayer warrior and just a woman of God. So I'm very blessed by her, and I need to introduce her.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed yourself tonight. I did. It's fun for me to have to go through the book one verse at a time. It's
Yep.
not a topical study, so I have to brush up on my scriptures too. But I like to dig out these little nuggets because that's, to me, when you just read it through quickly, you might get, you're going to get something, but when you read it through slowly and you examine, dig a little deeper into what the words mean or the illustrations, the different ways they can be applied, it paints a better, more detailed picture of Jesus.
Yes.
And stay tuned, because Sunday we're going to be talking a little bit more about understanding Jesus, because it says that he will keep him at perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Remember, Jesus said, Peter, who do men say that I am? Well, if you get that answer wrong, and that's how you consider him, you can consider that all the time, but that's not going to necessarily give you the benefit of who he is. We need to know who he is. And through the Bible study, we're learning more about who he is so that our relationship is more fruitful with him. So that's just a little plug for Sunday for those of you who attend church or follow online. So
We will be there.
I'll see you there. Thanks, everybody. I love you all.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Right.